Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge of the UES Hawking, her eyes fixed on the swirling anomaly that had appeared at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. After 15 years of deep space exploration, she thought she'd seen everything. She was wrong. "Dr. Powell, what are we looking at?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tension crackling through the bridge. The ship's chief scientist adjusted his holographic display, his dark fingers dancing through the projection. "It's like nothing we've ever encountered, Captain. The energy signature suggests it's artificial, but the technology required to create something of this magnitude would be, well, beyond anything humanity has achieved." The anomaly pulsed with a deep purple light, its edges shifting and reforming in patterns that seemed to defy physics. The Hawking had picked up its signature 3 days ago, and now they were close enough to see it with the naked eye. A tear in space itself, approximately 5 kilometers in diameter. "Multiple contacts," Lieutenant Rivera's voice cut through the silence. "Coming through the anomaly. Count 7. No, 12 vessels. Configuration unknown." Sarah's hand instinctively moved to the command console. Defensive posture. Shields up, but weapons passive. First contact protocols in effect. The alien ships emerged from the anomaly like liquid mercury flowing through space. Their hulls seemed to ripple and shift, adapting to the local space-time conditions. They were beautiful in an unsettling way. Organic curves mixed with geometric precision, ranging in size from small scouts to a massive vessel that dwarfed the Hawking. "They're broadcasting," Communications Officer Zhang announced. "Universal frequencies, multiple formats." The AI is attempting to decode. The bridge's main display flickered to life, revealing a being that appeared to be made of crystalline structures and flowing energy. Its face was a complex arrangement of geometric patterns that shifted as it spoke, its words translated by the ship's eye, with only a slight delay. "Vessel of the species designated human, you have witnessed that which was meant to remain hidden. The Nexus was not meant for your kind. You will surrender your observational data and submit to quarantine procedures." Sarah straightened her uniform, a habit from her academy days. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Ship Hawking. We are an exploratory vessel operating in sovereign human space. We claim right of discovery under galactic common law." The crystalline being's patterns shifted to sharp angles. "You cite laws you do not understand, of a community you are not part of. The Galactic Conclave has designated your species as pre-integration. Your presence here violates multiple protocols. We discovered this anomaly, this nexus, within our system's boundaries," Sarah countered. "Any protocols regarding pre-integration species cannot override basic sovereignty rights." "Captain," Dr. Powell interrupted, his voice low. "The energy readings from these ships, they're building to weapons-grade levels." The alien's response came with a harmonic that the translator interpreted as warning. "You will comply, or we will be forced to ensure compliance. You have 5 of your minutes to power down your shields and prepare for boarding." Sarah's mind raced. The Hawking was primarily a research vessel, but it carried the latest in human defensive technology. Even so, against 12 unknown vessels. Zhang, broadcast to Earth Command. "Priority ultraviolet." "Powell, I need options." "Captain, there's something else," Powell said, his fingers flying over his console. "The data we gathered on the Nexus. It's not just a portal. The quantum signatures suggest it's part of a network, ancient, possibly older than our galaxy itself. And these beings, they're not its creators. They're more like custodians." Sarah's eyes narrowed. If Powell was right, this wasn't just about first contact. This was about control of something far more significant. "Lieutenant Rivera, begin encrypting all sensor data from the past week. Zhang, prepare a burst transmission to Earth. Dr. Powell, I want everything you've discovered about this Nexus ready to transmit." 2 minutes remaining, human vessel, the crystalline being announced. "Your species is not ready for what lies beyond the Nexus. Surrender now." Sarah stood, her decision made. Humanity had fought too hard, come too far, to be dismissed as children by the first advanced civilization they encountered. "This is your only warning," she broadcast back. "We are operating within our sovereign territory. Any hostile action will be met with appropriate force." The aliens' patterns turned chaotic. "You do not understand the consequences of your defiance. The knowledge within the Nexus has destroyed civilizations far more advanced than yours. We act as guardians to prevent such catastrophes." "1 minute, Captain," Rivera reported. "Their weapons are hot, and they're moving to surround us." Sarah took a deep breath. "All hands, battle stations. Powell, is the data ready?" "Yes, Captain. But there's more. These readings suggest the Nexus is becoming unstable. The energy patterns are shifting." The crystalline being's next transmission carried tones of urgency. "Your presence has already begun to affect the Nexus. You must be contained before." A massive energy surge from the anomaly interrupted the transmission. The Nexus's purple glow intensified, its patterns shifting faster, more chaotically. Multiple new signatures detected. Rivera shouted, "Something's coming through." Sarah watched as dark shapes began emerging from the Nexus, ships of a design even stranger than their current visitors. The crystalline being's patterns shifted to what could only be interpreted as fear. "You don't understand what you've done," it transmitted. "You've drawn their attention. The Devourers have awakened." As alarms blared across the bridge, Sarah Chen realized that humanity's first contact had just become something far more complicated and far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. The next few moments would determine not just the fate of her ship and crew, but possibly the future of human civilization itself. The bridge of the UES Hawking erupted into chaos as the dark ships emerged from the Nexus. They moved with unnatural precision, their hulls seeming to absorb both light and sensor readings. Captain Chen watched as the crystalline being's vessels immediately shifted formation. Weapons now pointed toward the new arrivals instead of the Hawking. "Powell, what are we dealing with?" Sarah demanded, keeping her voice level despite the growing dread in her stomach. "The new vessels are. It's hard to explain, Captain. They're not just blocking our scans. They're consuming the energy we're using to scan them. And the Nexus is becoming increasingly unstable." The crystalline being's leader transmitted again, its patterns now sharp and urgent. "Human vessel, we offer immediate alliance. The Devourers cannot be allowed to establish a foothold in this galaxy again. Your system will be their first target." Sarah's tactical training kicked in. "Rivera, give me options." "Zhang, status of that burst transmission to Earth." "Transmission complete, Captain," John reported. "But there's something else. We're picking up distress signals from the Kuiper Belt research stations. They're going dark, one by one." The main screen split to show the research station's feeds. Sarah's blood ran cold as she watched the darkness spread across each station, not like an attack, but like an infection. The Devourer ships hadn't even moved toward them. "Captain Chen," the crystalline being transmitted, "we have failed in our duty as guardians. The Nexus should have been deactivated when we detected your approach. Our arrogance in attempting to simply ward you away has doomed us all." "What exactly are these Devourers?" Sarah asked, watching as the dark ships maintained their position, seemingly content to allow their influence to spread without direct engagement. The answer came as a series of complex mathematical formulae and historical records, rapidly translated by the ship's eye. The Devourers were an ancient species, or perhaps an ancient technology that had achieved sentience. They consumed energy in all its forms, electrical, biological, even the basic atomic bonds that held matter together. They had been sealed away eons ago by a coalition of species that included the crystalline being's ancestors. "Powell, correlate this with the Nexus data," Sarah ordered. "There has to be a reason they're appearing now." The scientist worked furiously at his station, comparing the new information with their earlier readings. "Captain, it's us. Or rather, it's humanity. The Nexus responds to consciousness patterns. Our brain structure, it's different. more chaotic, more adaptable than most species. We didn't just detect the nexus, we inadvertently provided the key to reactivating it. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. Humanity's first contact with advanced alien life had accidentally unleashed an ancient horror upon the galaxy. But there was something else nagging at her tactical instincts. If these devourers are so powerful, why aren't they attacking directly? Why this slow spread through our research stations? Energy signatures shifting. Rivera called out. The devourer ships, they're creating some kind of field. The crystalline ships suddenly began to move, attempting to form a barrier between the devourers and the Hawking. Their leader transmitted again. They are not attacking because they are transforming this space to suit their needs. Once the transformation is complete, all matter within their field will be converted to energy and consumed. We cannot allow this to proceed. Sarah watched as the crystalline ships opened fire on the devourers, their energy weapons seeming to have no effect on the dark hulls. If anything, the attacks appeared to be making them stronger. Powell, focus on the transformation field. Zhang, get me everything you can from those research stations before they go completely dark. Rivera, plot us a course that keeps us at the edge of the devourer's range. Captain, Powell's voice carried an unusual note of excitement. The research stations, they're not being destroyed. The data shows they're being reconfigured. The devourers aren't just consuming energy, they're reshaping matter at the quantum level. Sarah's mind raced. If Powell was right, this wasn't just an attack, it was terraform on a fundamental level of reality itself. The devourers weren't simply destroying, they were converting this region of space into something they could inhabit. New contact, Rivera shouted, coming in fast from the direction of Mars. It's the UES Oppenheimer. Sarah felt a mix of relief and concern. The Oppenheimer was Earth's most advanced research vessel, specifically designed for investigating quantum phenomena. Its arrival could change the equation significantly, but would it be for better or worse? Captain, Powell said quietly, I think I know why the Guardians were so concerned about humanity discovering the Nexus. These readings, they suggest our consciousness patterns are surprisingly similar to the Devourers. We may be looking at an evolutionary link. Before Sarah could process this revelation, the Devourer ships began to move for the first time since their arrival. As one, they turned toward the approaching Oppenheimer, their dark hulls rippling with what almost looked like recognition. The crystalline Guardian leader transmitted one final time. The connection is made. The cycle begins again. Captain Chen, you must understand. Your species was sealed away in this region of space for a reason. The Devourers were not imprisoned in the Nexus. They were quarantined here. And now they have found their children. Sarah stared at the main screen, watching as the Oppenheimer approached, its quantum drives pulsing with an energy signature eerily similar to the Devourer ships. Humanity had fought itself alone in the galaxy, striving to join a larger community of spacefaring species. Now they were faced with the possibility that they had never been alone, and that their true heritage was something far darker than anyone could have imagined. Captain Chen watched as the UES Oppenheimer's quantum drive signature pulsed in perfect rhythm with the Devourer ship's energy patterns. The revelation about humanity's possible connection to these ancient entities hung heavy in the air of the Hawking's bridge. Captain, incoming transmission from the Oppenheimer, Zhang announced. Text only. It's encrypted with your personal key. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Only one person would use that particular encryption, Dr. Elena Martinez, the Oppenheimer's lead quantum physicist and Sarah's former academy roommate. The message was brief. They're not our enemies. They're trying to wake us up. Powell, what's the status of the transformation field? Sarah asked, her mind racing with possibilities. Expanding steadily, Captain. The research stations aren't just being transformed. They're evolving. The quantum patterns suggest they're becoming nodes in some kind of vast network. The crystalline Guardian vessels maintain their defensive formation, their weapons charged but ineffective against the Devourer's dark halls. Their leader transmitted again, patterns shifting in what the AI translated as increasing desperation. Your kind was separated from the collective for good reason. The hunger for knowledge, for growth, it cannot be controlled. It will consume everything. Sarah opened a channel to the Oppenheimer. Alina, what exactly are we dealing with here? The response came through on a secure quantum band, Alina's voice clear despite the interference from the transformation field. They're not destroyers, Sarah. They're architects. We've been studying quantum consciousness patterns for years, trying to understand why human minds can achieve quantum coherence so easily. Now we know. We inherited it from them. The research stations, Powell interrupted, they're not just being networked. They're becoming quantum processors, but on a scale we've never imagined. It's like they're being upgraded to handle consciousness transfer. A new signal cut through all communications, not sound, not light, but pure information flooding directly into their minds. Images, concepts, and memories that weren't their own cascaded through their consciousness. The Devourers were sharing their history. They had been the first to achieve quantum consciousness, to transcend the barriers between matter and energy, mind and reality. But their evolution had frightened the younger races. The Guardians, in their fear, had used the Nexus network to quarantine them, splitting off a portion of their collective consciousness and seeding it into a primitive species on an isolated world, humanity. Captain, Rivera called out, his voice shaking slightly. The Devourer ships are transmitting some kind of code directly into our quantum processors. The AI can't make sense of it, but our human crew members seem to be able to understand it instinctively. Sarah felt it too. Patterns of thought that seemed to bypass her conscious mind and connect directly with something deeper, more primordial. The code wasn't just data. It was memory, identity, purpose. Alina, she transmitted to the Oppenheimer. Tell me you're seeing this too. We're not just seeing it, Sarah. We're remembering. The Oppenheimer's quantum drive. It wasn't just inspired by theoretical physics. It was inspired by genetic memory, by fragments of knowledge left dormant in our DNA. The transformation field had now reached the orbit of Neptune, converting everything it touched into a vast quantum network. But unlike the initial fears of destruction, the process was more like an upgrade, matter and energy reorganizing into more efficient, more conscious forms. The Guardians weren't protecting the galaxy from the Devourers, Powell said, his voice filled with awe as he processed the flood of ancient memories. They were preventing the next stage of cosmic evolution. They were afraid of becoming obsolete. The crystalline ships began to retreat, their leader broadcasting one final warning. You cannot control this power. The hunger for knowledge, for advancement, it will spread across the galaxy like a plague. Sarah stood from her command chair, her decision made. Maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needs. We've spent our entire history pushing boundaries, seeking knowledge, trying to understand the universe. Now we know why. It's not just human nature, it's our inheritance. She opened a channel to all ships. This is Captain Chen. To the Guardian vessels, you can retreat and report to your conclave. Tell them humanity has awakened to its true nature. We are not your enemies, but we will not be contained any longer. The Devourer ships pulsed with approval, their dark hulls now shimmering with patterns that matched human brainwave frequencies. The transformation field accelerated, but under the joint guidance of human consciousness and Devourer technology, it was controlled, purposeful. Alina, Sarah transmitted to the Oppenheimer. I hope you're ready for this. We're about to rewrite the book on human evolution. Already on it, Alina replied. The Oppenheimer's quantum processors are synchronizing with the Devourer network. We're not just observing the transformation. We're helping to guide it. The real question is, are Earth and Mars ready for what we're becoming? As if in answer, new signals began arriving from the inner solar system. The quantum revolution wasn't limited to the Kuiper belt. Across human space, dormant abilities were awakening. The barrier between consciousness and reality, between thought and action, was beginning to dissolve. Humanity had spent millennia looking to the stars, wondering if they were alone, trying to understand their place in the cosmos. Now they knew they weren't just another species reaching for the stars. They were the children of those who had transcended the very concepts of matter and energy, space and time. The real question wasn't whether humanity would be allowed to join the galactic community. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for humanity to complete its long-interrupted evolution. The next 48 hours transformed the solar system. As the quantum awakening spread, humanity faced its greatest challenge, not in resisting the change, but in directing it. The HFY Hawking had become a nexus of communication between Earth's hastily assembled crisis command and the devourer entities. Sarah Chen stood in the newly evolved bridge of her ship, no longer needing physical displays to monitor the situation. The quantum network connected her directly to every aspect of the Hawking, every member of her crew, and increasingly, to the broader consciousness of humanity itself. Incoming transmission from Earth Command. Elena's thoughts reached her from the Oppenheimer. The Security Council is divided. Some want to embrace the transformation. Others are calling for immediate containment protocols. Through the quantum network, Sarah could feel the ripples of fear and excitement spreading through human space. Mars had already fully embraced the change, its advanced quantum research facilities serving as accelerators for the transformation. The lunar colonies were following suit. Earth, with its larger population and more complex political structure, was struggling to adapt. Guardian reinforcements detected, River as consciousness projected. 3 fleet groups approaching from different vectors. Their weapons are primed for dimensional collapse. The Guardians had returned as expected, not with diplomats but with their most powerful weapons, devices capable of collapsing space-time itself. Their fear of change, of evolution beyond their control, had driven them to contemplate the unthinkable. Sarah reached out through the quantum network, connecting with the devourer consciousness. Their ancient wisdom flowed through her, showing her possibilities that traditional human science had never imagined. They don't understand. The devourers communicated. The transformation cannot be stopped. It can only be guided or allowed to run wild. A new presence entered the quantum network. Admiral Helena Wagner, speaking for Earth Command. Her thoughts carried the weight of humanity's first unified response to the crisis. Captain Chen, Dr. Martinez, the Security Council has reached a decision. We will not allow the Guardians to determine humanity's fate. The quantum network rippled with approval, but Sarah sensed something else beneath the surface. Admiral, what aren't you telling us? Our quantum archaeology teams have been analyzing the memories shared by the devourers. Wagner's thoughts projected. We've discovered why the Guardians are so afraid. This isn't the first time they've encountered an awakening species. The others, the transformation drove them mad. They couldn't handle the sudden expansion of consciousness. Howell's presence joined the conversation, his scientific mind already processing the implications. But we're different. The devourers prepared us, seeded us with the necessary cognitive architecture. We're not just surviving the transformation. We're thriving in it. The Guardian fleets had taken position, forming a containment triangle around the solar system. Their leader broadcast on all frequencies, their message translated simultaneously through the quantum network. This is High Commander Xerxes of the Guardian Conclave. Your species has accessed forbidden knowledge and initiated a Class Omega transformation event. For the safety of all sapient life, we are authorized to implement quarantine protocols. Surrender your connection to the quantum network, or we will be forced to isolate your entire system in a temporal stasis field. Sarah felt the reactions cascade through the quantum network: fear, anger, defiance, and underneath it all, a growing sense of purpose. Humanity had spent its entire existence pushing boundaries, exploring the unknown. They weren't about to stop now. We've detected temporal distortions, Elena reported. They're charging their dimension collapse weapons. But Sarah had already formulated a response, drawing on both her military training and the new insights flowing through the quantum network. Admiral Wagner, I have a proposal. The Guardians think quantum consciousness leads to chaos because that's what they've always seen. Let's show them another way. Through the network, Sarah shared her plan. It was audacious, unprecedented, and distinctly human in its approach. Instead of fighting the Guardians or trying to escape their containment, they would demonstrate the true potential of quantum consciousness, not as a force of chaos, but as a tool for understanding and growth. The Devourers seated us with their knowledge. Sarah projected to the assembled human consciousness, but they didn't determine our path. We're not bound by their history or the Guardians' fears. We can show the galaxy a new way forward. Admiral Wagner's approval resonated through the network, followed by authorization codes and resource allocations. Across the solar system, quantum processors reconfigured, consciousness patterns aligned, and humanity prepared to make its case to the galaxy. The Guardian ships began their final approach, their temporal weapons reaching critical charge. But in the quantum realm, where thought and action were one, humanity was already moving. They would not fight, they would not flee, and they would not surrender. They would do what humans had always done best: adapt, innovate, and transform challenge into opportunity. As the first temporal distortions reached the edge of the solar system, Sarah Chen gave the order that would either doom humanity or usher in a new age of galactic evolution. The question wasn't whether humanity would survive the coming storm. It was whether the galaxy was ready for what humanity would become. As the Guardian fleet's temporal weapons reached full charge, humanity enacted its response, not with weapons or shields, but with something uniquely human: the ability to adapt and communicate. Through the quantum network, every human mind in the solar system united in a singular purpose. Initiating quantum broadcast, Elena announced from the Oppenheimer, broadcasting on all frequencies, all dimensions, all consciousness patterns. Sarah Chen felt the power of billions of human minds flowing through the network, their thoughts and memories combining into a coherent message. They weren't just transmitting data, they were sharing experience, understanding, hope. The message reached the Guardian fleet not as words or images, but as pure understanding. Every Guardian ship received the full experience of humanity's evolution, from their earliest struggles to their current transformation. They saw the wars, the triumphs, the endless drive to explore and understand. Most importantly, they saw how humanity had maintained its identity even as it embraced the quantum consciousness. High Commander Xerxes' temporal weapons faltered. Through the quantum network, Sarah could sense the confusion and wonder spreading through the Guardian fleet. They had expected chaos and destruction. Instead, they witnessed control, purpose, and a new kind of order. "This is impossible," Xerxes transmitted, both through conventional channels and a quantum network. "No species has ever maintained coherence during the awakening. The expansion of consciousness always leads to madness." Because they weren't prepared for it, Sarah projected back. The Devourers didn't just seat us with their knowledge. They gave us time to evolve naturally, to develop the mental resilience needed to handle quantum consciousness. We're not just their children, we're their successors. Through the network, Powell shared his analysis. The quantum patterns showed that humanity's consciousness was actually stabilizing the local space-time fabric, creating a bridge between normal space and the quantum realm. They weren't destroying reality, they were expanding it. The Devourer ships, still maintaining their position near the Hawking, pulsed with approval. Their ancient consciousness resonated with human thoughts, creating harmonies in the quantum field that even the Guardians could not ignore. Admiral Wagner's presence filled the network. "Show them who we are," she commanded. "All stations, all ships, all colonies, full quantum synchronization." Across the solar system, humanity demonstrated its mastery of the transformation. On Mars, quantum processors merged with the planetary infrastructure, creating a living network that enhanced rather than replaced conventional technology. The lunar colonies developed new forms of quantum architecture, building structures that existed simultaneously in normal space and the quantum realm. Even on Earth, where the transformation had met the most resistance, people were discovering that quantum consciousness didn't mean losing their humanity. It meant expanding it. Artists created works that could be experienced across multiple dimensions. Scientists explored theories that merged quantum mechanics with human intuition. Children born into the quantum age showed an unprecedented ability to learn and adapt. "We offer you a choice," Sarah transmitted to the Guardian fleet. "You can try to contain us, forcing us into a conflict that will damage both our civilizations, or you can work with us, learning to guide other species through their own awakening when they're ready." Through the quantum network, Alina shared new data from the Oppenheimer's research team. They had discovered that the Devorer's original transformation hadn't been a natural evolution. It had been forced, rushed, leading to the instability that had frightened the younger races. Humanity's gradual development had created a different path. "Your weapons cannot stop evolution," Sarah continued, "but together, we can guide it. The galaxy doesn't need guardians who prevent change. It needs teachers who can help species embrace their full potential." High Commander Xerxes's consciousness patterns shifted, showing signs of understanding and, remarkably, hope. The temporal weapons powered down. The Guardian fleet maintained its position, but no longer in attack formation. "In all our history," Xerxes transmitted, "we have never encountered a species that could channel quantum consciousness with such humanity. Perhaps we have been guardians of the wrong thing. Instead of protecting the galaxy from change, we should have been protecting its right to grow." The Devorers, their purpose finally fulfilled, began to fade from normal space. But they left humanity with a final gift. Not knowledge or technology, but understanding. They had never intended to create copies of themselves. They had wanted to create something new, something that could succeed where they had failed. "Captain," Powell called out, monitoring the quantum field fluctuations, "the transformation is stabilizing. We're reaching a new equilibrium, not just in our solar system, but throughout local space." Sarah Chen stood on her bridge, connected to her crew, her species, and now to the broader galactic community through the quantum network. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just transformed, but transcendent. They had proven that evolution didn't have to mean destruction, that change could be guided by wisdom and compassion. The Guardian fleet began to withdraw, but not in retreat. Xerxes' final transmission carried overtones of respect and anticipation. "The Galactic Conclave will need to be restructured. Humanity has earned more than membership. You have earned the right to help shape the galaxy's future. We will return not as controllers, but as colleagues." As the Guardian ships departed, Sarah felt the quantum network pulse with the combined consciousness of humanity. They had not just survived first contact, they had revolutionized it. The stars were no longer distant points of light, but beacons of possibility, waiting for humanity to help guide the galaxy into a new age of understanding. The human quantum awakening had begun as a crisis. It ended as a promise, not just to themselves, but to all species ready to take the next step in cosmic evolution. The future would bring new challenges, new species seeking their own path to quantum consciousness, but humanity would face them with both their newfound power and their enduring spirit of exploration and cooperation. In the end, it wasn't humanity's connection to the Devorers that had saved them. It was their own nature, their adaptability, their creativity, their ability to face the unknown with both courage and compassion. They had proven that consciousness could evolve without losing its essential nature, that power could be guided by wisdom, and that the greatest adventures in the universe were those shared with others.